started tracking all of it. I would just, I'd plan a lot of it, and then I would be highly adaptive and adjust it. But the thing that I started doing every day is just tagging every hour and what did I do. And I eventually found somebody in 2020 that heard me talk about it and came in and wrote a script that went into my Google Calendar that pumped that thing out into a dashboard. And now I could see how I used my time on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis by hour and by percentage. And so that began to create this really interesting clarity as it related to like the time matrix from a percentage standpoint, right? If you have, 8,760 hours in the year and you do something for 365 days a year for 1 hour, it's 4% of your life, right? If you, sleep 7 hours, it's like, 28% of your life. If you work a 40-hour week, it's 23% of your life. So I began to see the structure of this time. And as you begin to understand and design it against how you want to use it, you begin to question its efficacy. How high of efficacy are you using with this actual time? And then when you decide to do something, you start thinking about it in second and third order consequences. Right? Because we'll get excited about an idea that we want to do, and we just think about the idea. We don't think about the time, energy, and mental capacity that it'll take from, and then the long tail of that. Because once we commit to something, what happens? We could be trapped by it. Right. And if it ends up taking way more time, it could end up being detrimental to your overall well-being and your balance in your mind. Right. So for me, as I began to do all that and really look at the time matrix, I began to put value on every bit of that time. And then I began to assess that time by how did it make me feel qualitatively. And that then began to make me continually adjust how I design the time. Because what I realized is what's happening. The world's changing. You're changing at all times. You're evolving. Everything around you's evolving. So you can't just make one great schedule and there you go. You did it. You have a perfect time management skills. Like you're constantly need to be adjusting how you use time and the value of that time and how you see you should spend that on an ongoing basis or on an ad hoc basis. And you have to continually design it better and better over time. And what I did was grow the skill set of continually optimizing time and assessing it and redesigning it that allowed me to get more and more efficient so I could go from doing 250 episodes of television, doing 52 podcasts, managing if I have core 6 companies that I have to be actively managing inside it to go along with all my other pursuits and still do that with only 23% of my time. You know what I'm saying? Like that is in where you now have gotten so efficient that you choose efficiency over anything else.
You mind giving them an example? Because I know it. Like, for example, like when I've come to you with different things like, hey, I got this TV show idea. You're like, well, how much of your time is it going to take? How does it make you feel? What's it going to cost you somewhere else? What percentage of it is for you? Even when we first started here, even this podcast, I'm like, it's this percentage of my time. It's this percentage of my income. However, it's a big percentage of joy for me. But in your case, if you don't mind, and if you don't, it's okay. But like even the way you shoot your show, one of the things when you hear this man talk, he has as big a life as about anybody that I know. I mean, he's got a show where he shoots a bazillion episodes. He's in the production side. He's on the talent side. He's got the Dyrdek machine. He's got his investments. He's got different businesses. He's got a core, and he's a very, very active father, very, very active husband. He's got a public persona to keep up. He's got a social media. He's got a podcast, and that's just like some of it. Yet I don't know anyone who navigates their life more seamlessly and beautifully than you do. I don't. But you'd make it wouldn't seem that way. So give us a practical example for you, like on the way that you scale time, like for your show, what you did in the way that you shoot it and the gaps in between shows. Is that too personal? Or
No.
Just share that because I want people to think, okay, that sounds really good theoretically, but like I'm trying to get my startup off the ground. My kids are in soccer. I've got the gym I got to get to. So what does that look like practically? How do I actually begin to navigate it?
Yeah, look, I think, it's every bit of your life has the ability to be designed into time. You know what I mean? And yes, things are going to come at you that you need to change, and then everything you want to drive to automation. Right.
Okay.
Everything in my life, I try to drive to automation. And then when I feel friction, I go to optimize it. And when I feel friction, I apply a system or a solution. And I just keep doing that over and over and over to reduce all friction and drive everything to a much higher state of efficiency. Right. And the show itself is this beautiful example of,
It is.
I used to shoot 60 episodes a year and it would tear the soul out of me. It would tear the soul out of me. I didn't even want to shoot the show anymore. I didn't want to shoot the show anymore because it just took too much energy. It would be 5 weeks straight where I would shoot like 4 days a week, and it would just like, I would be, at the end of it, I would be so exhausted and be like, I don't even like enjoy doing this. Like, I don't care what it pays me. It's like, it's too much of my energy and well-being, right? And so I began to just look at ways to make it more and more efficient and look at the things that bother me, because we used to shoot 2 a day, and then we would, shoot for an hour, do all these pickups in between. Then I would stay for an hour and then do voiceover on the stage for an hour. And then we would break for an hour. Then I would do the whole thing again. I would get there at like 9:30, 10 and leave at like 6, right? And then that would be a 5-week stretch of like 4 days a week and just terrorize me. Then I'd have to drive out to Glendale to get prepped for the shows and spend 3 or 4 hours going through all the shows. And I just slowly kept looking at every possible thing that I could optimize. And it started first with how they built the shows and presented them to me. And I got to, instead of driving out to Glendale to look at them, hey, let's start doing it online and send them to me. And then it's like start presenting them to me in this structure. And then it got to the point where I stopped even talking to them. They just would send them to me. I would review them, and it went from 3 hours round trip to do it to 15 minutes.
This is Rob right here, you guys. This is the stuff. Yeah.
And to then actually shooting the show, then it was like, how can we make it more and more efficient? All right, I'm just going to fire off a lot more off the cuff stuff that you can edit in instead of doing the voiceover. And then I took, shooting the show for an hour plus, and then do an hour of voiceover. I drove that all the way down to about 35 minutes. Then I said, hey, how do we can we take one clip out of every single one of these? Because we're shooting with 6 clips, but we're only editing 4 and 5. And so we took a clip out of everything, drove the time down to 29 minutes, right? And so then it became, okay, you shoot 2 a day, let's shoot 2 a day before lunch. Then it was like, okay, let's shoot 3 a day before lunch. Then it was like, all right, let's shoot 6 a day, 3 before lunch, 3 after. And then now I could get 6 done in a day, and then I could spread out when I shoot to where I only shoot a couple times a month. Then, boy, now I feel like it's back in my life. It's back in my rhythm. It's no longer taking energy. It's much more efficient to get prepped for. It's easier to shoot. The energy's not gone because I shoot it so quickly that the energy's good. Pop into the next one. But I just kept looking at way after all these different ways that I continued to optimize. And then now going into next year, I'm going to start shooting 336. Okay. And I'm going to shoot 8 a day. And so I was like, I don't want to give up any more time. Where can I save time? We have 15 minutes between the shows to change wardrobe. So if I eliminate 2 wardrobe changes and in between the shows and 15 minutes at lunch, I get back that hour, and now I can shoot 336 in the same 42 days, 5 hours a day, as I did to shoot the 252 with prep time the night before and drive time there and back. That is 4% of my life.
See, you guys, this is why I want him around me. Let me interrupt you, okay? I want to give you guys like the easy application for me. This hyper obsession with optimization of time and oneself. When you're around somebody, they become a friend of yours, some of it rubs off on you. So I don't have the types of show that he has. I don't shoot 350 episodes. I don't have that. But it has caused me to begin to evaluate, where am I just pissing time away? Where is it causing me more stress? What are the different things I do? I'll give you one small thing that's a massive thing after I met you. I started looking at just meetings that I take. And I'm like, why are all my meetings 1 hour long? Why is it blocked from, you think about all of you do this, you're like, yeah, that's right. Why is it from 4 to 5 o'clock? How do I know this thing's going to last an hour? And because it lasts an hour, because we've blocked an hour, we take up the hour. But perhaps this is a 20-minute meeting, right? Perhaps this is a 14-minute meeting. Why is everything 4 to 4:30, 5:30 to 6, 5? Why are they all these round number blocks of time that we've all accepted need to be blocks of time? And because that's the block, that's how long the meeting takes, right? You're nodding when I say this. So I've gotten with my team now, and now they know. Let's find out how long this meeting is required to happen, the most efficient time for the meeting, not where I'm dismissive of people or don't give them the adequate amount of time or the emotional connection. But you'll find, everybody, most meetings don't need to be an hour.
They don't.
They don't. They don't need to be a half an hour.
Yeah.
And so when I started to get those things done, I have a lot of 15-minute meetings now.
Yep.
And my whole life opened up because of it. And here's the other thing. I bring better energy to those meetings. So you're so right. Like when you first started, I'm like, this is really good in theory, dude, because you got this big old life. But for the beginner, they just got to go.
Yeah.
But the truth is, when you're just going, I want you to speak to this. So let's now go. The guy goes, that's great. I don't have 350 of anything. I don't have 64 of that.
Yeah.
I got a job. I've got a side hustle. I got a family. I'm trying to get this going. So I'm throwing a bunch of time at it. But my thing I want you to speak to is your lack of valuing time is impacting not only your fatigue, your energy, your performance, but it's impacting every part of you because other people don't value your time or you when you don't. And when you begin to take control of time, even as a beginner, my belief is other people value you more. You agree with that?
Yeah, and look, I think the other thing is you end up creating sort of your system that also allows you to be available a lot more than you should be.
Good point.
You know what I mean? And then people rely on that availability to then have a more scattered, erratic schedule that you've got to be fit into, and they pull the energy from you because you're essentially operating that way, and that scatteredness becomes how the people operate around you, right? Which
Really good.
almost never allows you to get there, right? And to me,
Whoa,
when you start thinking about your whole life, forget about just time because time's just one sort of piece of what you need to have high energy and have a great life. Mm-hmm. And so it's if you don't design time to meditate, to free think, to get to the gym, to do all these things that you know you need to do that make you the better version of you and make you feel more balanced in your mind, that allows you to have better energy and more clarity at that meeting, and you just continually go from thing to thing to thing because, I have to go from thing to thing to thing, then you are never going to have the time to do the things that you want to do because you're too busy doing the things you have to do on an ongoing basis as a way of life.
Man.
You are the machine, and you design the machine to go from thing to thing to thing to thing till you're exhausted, then you complain, then you overcorrect and try to get rid of all these things to get it back, when in fact it is the way that you have built your system that has bound you to this habitual way of not having time, rather than designing your whole system around using time the right way.
I think it's the most breakthrough stuff anyone's talking about right now, particularly designed for this time. I mean it. I think it speaks to everybody at every stage, no matter if they have a big, huge life and all the things you have going or I have going, or they're beginning to build their dream life. If you don't get intentional about this, that's the micro.
But let me say this to that, right? Everybody's got a big life. Because I have the same time, energy, and capacity as you.
Yeah.
Like anyone listening to this, we all are in the same construct of time. Yeah. We all, yes, our energy may vary, but we all have control to take care of ourselves, to do more things that we like, to begin to evolve our life in a way to where we have higher energy, but we all have a limit, a human physical and mental capacity. And if we go over it, we collapse in. Even me. right? Like I have completely organized, perfectly designed time, beautiful rhythm, clear vision and goals, and executing everything within this beautiful matrix. I'm highly optimized. Why am I overwhelmed? Why am I overwhelmed? Because I went past capacity, right? And that's sort of the second edge, is understanding your physical and mental capacity and being able to manage that inside the way that you design your time. Because when you become overwhelmed, your decisions like degenerate, and then you ultimately start overcorrecting.
By the way, how brilliant you are about that. I make the worst decisions when I'm fatigued, and typically what I'm doing when I'm fatigued is the overcorrection. Then I'm like overscheduling. Then once my energy comes back, I look at a day or a week and I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking when I agreed to all of this stuff? And a lot of it isn't productive stuff. And then I don't have time for the things that would move the needle in my fitness, in my mental health, in my financial life. And all of a sudden, lots of stuff is in a schedule that doesn't necessarily move the needle in my life in the areas that I want the needle to move to. Speaking of life and needle moving, I don't know if you texted me this or you posted it, so it probably doesn't matter. But that's the micro stuff. The macro is, you're so obsessed with this that you look at like duration of time on the planet. And it was something about, you just realized, you read something on you're laughing, but did you text me this or did you post it?
I just posted that I wanted to live 1 million hours.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So you read something that convinced you that that you could live to a particular age, and you deduced how many hours there. So I actually think this is brilliant, because this type of focus causes us to live with intention and attention, and the lack of, I think all the time. Do you know when I pray at night? You're going to laugh at this. Never said this out loud, not even to my wife. I'm going to tell you and about 70 billion people right now. When I pray at night, one of my last prayers is that I'm going to live to 128 years old. Okay, and I really believe, now again, someone will listen to this in 3 years. Wow, it's so sad he passed away. But I have that prayer and that intention, and I've repeated it over and over and over and over again. Because I believe if I don't pick a number, if I don't pick a time, if I don't set a goal, if I don't, then I'll be up to the whims of whatever else comes my way. And I really believe that you create a space when you set something like that didn't exist before you did it, and then you find the behaviors, the people, the things, the thoughts, the technology, the nutrition to fill it up. What I didn't do was calculate the amount of hours that it gives me to then optimize that time. So speak to that whole thing.
Yeah, and look, it really makes me happy. That means we're gonna be friends deep into our hundreds.
I love it.
We're gonna be having these conversations about, well, what do you think? You thinking you're going to 128? You think you're good? I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good right now. But awesome. I think about it more from this is what I'm big on. This is your existence. Right, and this is the framework of the human experience. Right, you only truly can judge anything, your energy, how well you're using time, everything that's happened in your past, how you actually feel in the present moment. True. You can only do it in the present moment, and you only experience it in your mind, right? And then you have to make a decision of like, I want to change all of these things, so I'm going to create a better future experience. That is the human experience, and I realized that I wanted to make it last to 112. I initially wanted to live to 104 and be shot in a rocket into space and explore the universe without the light pollution from planet Earth for the last year before I died, and then floated out into the cosmos. Now, that was before I had a wife and kids. And so it's like now the audacity of don't worry about me. And then like I'm up there for like 24 more years. Like, so that changed. And then when I read the book Ikigai, right, the Japanese long life and happiness book, they talked about super centurions. And I'm like, oh, like that brand. I want to be a super centurion. So then I made it that I would want to live to 112. And then as I started getting deeper into, okay, how many days is that? All right, okay, that's how many days I have. This is how many days that I've done so far. Then when I was going through my time matrix and looking at all these different things where I spend time of like, wow, I spend nearly as much time shooting a television show as I will picking up my kids and taking them to school for the year. Right. And to me, as I just started looking at these hours, and then where am I losing a lot of time? on the couch watching Netflix. You know what I mean? It's me and the wife on there watching our favorite show. But boy, when you start looking at what that is, man, you're letting the hard 8 to 9% go on the couch. You know what I mean? Like it's cold hard reality. But as I looked at that, you know, I then was like, you know, what's a round number of time? And like, wow, 1 million hours is 114 years and 54 days. I'm gonna experience 1 million hours on this earth, right? And so, of course, a lot of people push back on like, oh, it's good, yeah, you're like a vegetable. What are you gonna do? And it's like I didn't even contemplate that, and it's because you live in two different mindsets. I live in a mindset that I just keep getting healthier and happier, more balanced, lighter. Life is more effortless. My system, that is my entire body, is more efficient. And I can show you in blood work. I can show you in net worth. I can show you in time. And I can show you in qualitative data that I have collected about how I feel about my life, work, and health, that I am in healthier, better physical condition, wealthier, more balanced, and happier in the data, which only proves to me there's no reason why you can't keep getting healthier, happier, and wealthier for the remainder of your life. Then I'll just fall right off a cliff. You know what I mean? Whatever it ends up ending. But again, what's it go back to? I want to live with absolute intention, and I want to experience every moment that I get into and feel the vividness and the richness and the beauty that is the human experience and life. You know, you don't want to be so future focused and trying to create a better future that you never feel the present, right? Gosh. And so for me, I really began to understand what state my mind is at all times, and how do I learn to control that and begin to put in systems and solutions that keep my mind in a balanced state is really one of the bigger things that I've learned to do over the last year or so.
Share with us one of those systems.
Well, you know, if you can imagine this, your mind is balanced in this way, right? It's past, present, and future. Okay. Right? And so there's sort of 5 sections as I see it. And on one end, it's dwelling in the past. Okay. You ain't doing nothing. You want to sit and dwell about something you did, you ain't doing nothing. Then the next level up is rectify. Right? You are problem solving, taking action, something that happened in the past. So now you're in the present past where, okay, I'm dealing with something that happened. Now I'm problem solving, taking action to make a better future, right? You sit right in the middle and you experience it, or you go to the next level is creating. Right? And so now you're in this future present, right? Where you're experiencing the present while creating the future. That's where you want to toggle, right? Because what goes beyond creating the future is wishing, right? Because then if you're sitting there wishing the future was better and wishing like this will be like this, or you're dwelling, you're not moving, right? And so you want to be either experiencing the moment or handling something that happened in the past present or creating something in the future present state and swing between that, right? And so if you can imagine that's your mind, what you think about on an ongoing basis ranges between all of that. That's where the action lives. Now it's the quality of your mind, and your mind's quality is either in a proactive state, a reactive state, an inactive state, or a magnetic state, right? And for me, when all aspects of my life are in order, meaning I'm eating super clean, everything, all my goals and visions and everything is running smooth. I'm spending very little time rectifying the past because I've designed my present future experience with such intention. I'm dealing with very little disruption that then I eventually go beyond just being proactive to this magnetic state. And I know you've experienced this before, because this is when your everything is operating at such a level that answers start coming to you without you asking the questions. It is the law of attraction that's the unexplainable force that lives in the quantum field, where your energy is at such a high level. You are so clear of not only being present and experiencing, but creating your better future. And you rise to this, you vibrate to this level to where the answers show up and you never ask the questions, right? And for me, I'm trying to master all aspects of my existence to where I basically sit in that state of toggling between future, present, and proactive and magnetic at all times.
Oh my God.
It's a deep one. It's a deep one.
No. Okay, that's an all-timer right there.
That's a deep one.
I want everyone to go back the last 5 or 6 minutes there. That's an all-timer. When we talk, I always filter it through my life and my perspective. I just realized something, because I do know what that vibrational frequency feels like when I am getting answers to questions I haven't even asked. It's not frequent enough. And the reason it's not frequent enough is I'm depleting my energy reserves to not put myself in a state where I can have that type of energy and what I call vibrate at that frequency.
Yep.
And you're exactly right. And that's the other reason why rest, recovery, being present matters. I just really pulled something here. I just really did.
But let me say this. Every single thing matters. Every thought, every action, every decision, every single thing that you do is interconnected to get you to that space. And for me, it's like, I think, I'll have a glass of wine. I'll have a couple chips. It will pull away from that. I'll make one bad decision from eating bad that will then cause me to be short with my wife, that leads to this entire pulls me right out of the magnetic state, right? Because it's like, even when you're there, it's really sensitive, and you could just get one thought that could rip you out of that. You could look at one text that could rip you out of that, right? It's like, and so that requires really, really understanding every single bit of you and then giving value to everything you do, rather than trying to like pocket your values. Oh, if I eat healthy. Oh, if I stay focused. Oh, if I clear out this stuff. Oh, if I rest or recover, versus like, no, it is all works together to make the best version of you. How committed are you? How disciplined are you to live at the level that you know you have to live at a consistent enough basis that it becomes to compound effortlessly and become a way of life, rather than getting disciplined again. That's really what it is, you know.
Well, for me, I burned myself out going from those states to the good state, back to the bad state. I'm still having wine with you at dinner tonight, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And everybody, you all hear the show every single week. It's pretty rare that I'm this quiet, because I really process a lot of information when you and I go like this.
Yeah.
It's good for me. I'm already thinking of stuff I'm going to say and I'm going to teach, that I'm going to steal, that I'm going to make mine. One of the things, in addition to all of this, that we talked about when we were down in Mexico was this notion of momentum. Here's what I do. I'm going to tell you what I do. I got all that, and I'm going to get to it. But right now I got momentum. And so I'm going to throw fuel on the fire. And I think this is what burnout is. So I've got momentum. I mean, you've had momentum in your career for freaking 25 years, maybe more, right? So, and by the way, that's the other lesson from Rob. He's had sustainability and consistency in the public world or in the entrepreneurial space. It is extremely rare to have duration of success or expansion of success like what you've had. And I was telling you, maybe we were both talking about, I'm like, yeah, but I got momentum. Yeah, but I got this. Yeah, but I got that. Yeah, but so I'm going to get to this, but that'll be like, I see it and you're right. And I'm going to do some of it. But what I'm realizing is that momentum was generated from a space of creativity, of rest, of a particular vibrational frequency. And I'm almost running on the fumes of it now, rather than, so it will run out if I don't get back to this creative state where I'm in that present problem solving or present creativity state. So what would you say to someone who's listening, is going, I got all that, but I'm finally got my business moving. We're scaling. We're finally getting this, and the economy's changing, and I got these other things coming. And so, man, for me to think about this theoretical stuff you're talking about is really good. But man, like supply chains going on, interest rates are going up. Unemployment may start to get higher again. Their national debt, and I just getting it going. So this is really good. And I'm going to remember this podcast for 3 years from now. What would you say to them?
It'll always be like that. It's never not going to be like that. It was the startup version when it was a startup. Oh, now it's working and there's more to even worry about. Oh, now it's like scale, and it's even, guess what? It's always like that. So if you don't build a harmonious system, your goal is to lead with harmony. If you don't build harmony in your system from the very beginning, you won't have harmony when you find the success, right? And this is why I preach designing life and business at the same time.
Yeah.
So when you find success in your business, you find success in your life. And to me, in 2016, when I designed the plan for the way that I wanted to live, I designed a balanced life that would make me healthy first, and then I fit work into it. I created hundreds of millions of dollars with using a small percentage of my time living a fully balanced, harmonious life. All of the success that I have created since we sat down in 2018 was done from this beautiful, peaceful place. I got better and better and better at being more efficient with my time and my energy, and got healthier and healthier, and my output got higher and higher and higher. And like all of the things that you can worry about that drive you down, you continue to clear them out to where you're only dealing with incoming stress rather than all these things that come in and then break you, right? Then you got to reevaluate all this stuff and do all this stuff again. But, that's my passion for, harmony over hustle. You know what I mean? Like you build a harmonious existence and then get better and better at living in a harmonious way. But I want to say this to momentum, right? Is why it was so profound when we were in Mexico, because I'm it's the pursuit, right? Like I look at you as like, this is the ideal way of life, man. You want your island, you want to be flying on your jet, you want to head out to the golf course, you want to go to the beach house. Like it's really like, and now I look at the world through I look at how much travel time it's involved in that, right? Forget about like, how could you possibly, do the show, do the book, do the podcast, and then still have time to get there. Oh, your kids are going to college. And like, I see the strain in sort of the use of time just in the structure. And so then I know you have more than enough money to live peacefully and happily. I know that your mission is really more on like, how can I reach people and impact people? And when you say momentum, it's like, man, I as the world was changing, then as I was changing, I saw an opportunity to share my voice on social media. Then I saw an opportunity to share my voice on a podcast. Then now I got momentum. Now it's like, now I'm like, so many more people want to talk to me, so many more opportunities. I got momentum. Now it's like, I want to make a book that impacts people and what it is. Oh, now I got even more momentum. Like, oh, what about this television show? Like, I saw that as like, man, I know what that's like. Right. And to me, I also know that, boy, man, you can get caught up in that and trapped by that momentum.
Listen close, everyone.
Yeah. If you don't understand sort of the second and third order consequences of capturing that momentum.
Yep. Let's stay on this. I won't say what it is with you.
Yeah.
But because we don't want that. But there's been some significant opportunities come your way.
Yeah.
Some things that could have been, you think your brand's big now, you're like really different. I'm talking about a public brand. And when those things came your way, you declined. And you know what I'm talking about, right? We won't get into what those things were, but you have learned to say no because your decision-making process has a process. And I think one thing I want to say to everybody that I think Rob has that I don't, that I'm developing because I know him, is a process and a philosophy through which I make decisions rather than just emotionally. Because I will, if you let me, I'll just keep helping more and more and more people with no process to make the decision, no evaluation of what the consequences are, and no evaluation of what maybe looks like I'll help more people will cost me, deplete the energy that could have done it in a more efficient and productive way. So you have also learned to decline, to say no to different things in your life. And I think that's probably something everyone should know.
Yeah. And look, it's one of those things that you could read it in every single personal development book. Got to learn to say no. You know what I mean? And we know it as guys who lived out on the edges of saying yes to everything.
Right.
Because, you know, the early process for me is like, oh man, this might be the one. Oh, this might be the one. Oh, wow, this might be the one. And the problem is I hadn't defined what is the whole. And once I finally defined what the whole was, and now I'm like, and I refer to it as like the human why, where we all have the same why. We want to live a harmonious, high quality life. Right. And so you have to define what that is for you. And for me, that was how I used my time, the type of things that I did, and ultimately the amount of money I had, where I invested that money, and what that money did for me, and the lifestyle that I lived. I had a certain way of living that I wanted, that I connected to my identity, that I needed to create enough wealth that would provide me that lifestyle in a sustained manner forever before I would be truly harmonious, right? And when I finally did that, right, and I defined it and I built the plan backwards, and when I finally got to there, I changed. I changed because I now had this extraordinary security, right? And that security now allowed me to get even more efficient with my time, make even more decisions that are based on, is this going to affect my energy? Like, and continuing to build my life around what gives me energy, anything that takes energy. Anything that slightly takes it, address it and get rid of it, create a system or a solution to solve it, or just completely get it out of your life. And now you will never compromise, especially doing something that's just for money or some higher level of fame, if you will. Because I don't want to disrupt the harmony that I've created because it's unnecessary. I am as happy and balanced as a human being could be. I am excited to continually evolve into my limitless potential in a controlled manner that is done on a consistent basis of joy. Because what I realized is, well, man, what is happiness? Well, happiness is really just consistent joy. And when you go from day after day after day, where thing after thing after thing is filled with joy and an extended period of time, that's when you're feeling what it feels like to be truly happy all the time.
When you listen to him, everybody, this is a dude from Ohio who was a skateboarder. And now look at this.
I mean, the guy who quit high school.
Yeah, right.
Look, you keep in mind this. I didn't even understand personal development or even read until I met my wife. Incredible. who was like super into personal development. And like I read Think and Grow Rich back then, and it like was like, whoa, like I had read it when I was younger, but it was like the beginning of unlocking like what is the human potential. And then my mind thinks in this sort of systems way, and I just keep, as I'm living it and finding the success in life that I envisioned and planned 5 years earlier and are realizing it, I'm doing it while I'm thinking about how one day I can share it. So it's almost like this meta process of you're learning lessons, thinking of how they integrate together, and then how you can articulate this in an easy to understand way that you can share with people one day. It's this interesting process I've been in.
It's really deep what you just said. So one thing I've begun to do, I did a lot in my entrepreneurial life, but I didn't do it in my personal life. So in my entrepreneurial life, I was always like, well, we need a process or a system for that. Because nothing can be related just to personality or emotion. So in all my entrepreneurial ventures, we need a process or a system for that. It wasn't until really you and I connected that like, you're like, that's what my life is. So everybody listening to this or watching, you got to ask yourself this. Do you have a process or system for that? Because if it's not a process or a system, it's probably not going to be sustainable over a duration. You have to have a process or a system. You probably could have been some type of engineer in another lifetime, I think, because you do think systematically and process-wise. But I think all of you, if you're trying to extract things you need to ask yourself is, do you have a process and a system for it? Is there one? Because if there isn't, you need one. From your time, from your family stuff, from your entrepreneurial, your part of your life. Energy depletion, one other place, because you mentioned Brianna, and that is, what about humans who drain your energy? Have you had to sort of, cut people out? Or like, are you cognizant of the humans you associate with from an energy depletion or giving you energy standpoint? Is that something that's also part of this formula for you?
Yeah, I want to give you two versions of it, right?
Okay.
Because I think the getting rid of the bad energy is an easy one to talk through, but it's how do you optimize with those that you love?
Okay.
That's what I think is a lot more evolved and sort of
higher level.
what I've grown into. But I first started, by just asking myself every single day and rating qualitatively, how do I feel about my life, my work, and my health, 0 to 10. And if it's low, you think about why it's low and you make a note of it. And you'll find that the people that bring you down start popping up. And then it becomes so obvious, right? Like I had people that worked for me that were really truly disrupting the quality of my life on a consistent basis that I didn't have clarity on until I was asking myself, how did you feel about work yesterday, 0 to 10? And then it was like a 4 because I was fighting with one of my executives for like 3 hours and had to change my entire vision for it because it's not what they wanted to do. Like I began to see that, and then eventually cleared every single person that brought me down out. All of them, every single one of them, right? And including in that same process, then there's certain parts of the business that drained me that I had to either learn or stop being involved in,
Delegate.
right? Like it was very informative from a qualitative standpoint. Now I go to the most important relationship, that is my wife. And it is system after system after system on system on system on system on system. Strictly releasing and relieving any friction in our relationship. And it sounds like, oh, well, like, what could that possibly be? Well, first it starts with the age-old date night. Right? And so, like schedule a date night. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't enough to keep us balanced and happy. So the schedule is, a Monday night talk night, a Thursday night movie night, a Wednesday morning breakfast, a Friday night sushi. Like it's having a rhythm of dates and times that we spend in the week. Now it's not a matter of like, oh, you made 1 hour available.
Right.
You've integrated your wife into your life. Now that was essential to begin to stop that friction. Then she started hearing me telling stories of stuff that I was working on and be like, I didn't even hear that. So, okay, how do I solve that? Then I started sending her an email every single morning of everything that I was doing in the day and what it meant to me with a love quote so that she got that every single day and was completely informed at what I was doing. So now how do I automate that? I have my assistant scrape my calendar and put it into an email and put it in my email that I can look in the morning. I go and find the love quote depending on the energy of the season, and then I send it to her every single day, right? And so, okay, that seems like you look at that alone, like look at you guys, like in your rhythm, like you go with her every day to drop the kids off and pick them up. For most days, like you have this balanced rhythm with everything, and now she's completely informed. but getting friction on how complex our life was and all these big projects moving on. Then we moved to a Thursday family sync where we get all the executive assistants and executive assistants together, and then we go through everything going on with the family and get organized in everything that needs to get done. Now we have the Thursday family sync to eliminate that. In the middle of that, like, stuff's popping up in the schedule. She's seeing it in that email in the morning and be like, what is this? You're going to do Ed's podcast today? So what do? We added a new system to the family sync where I go through the calendar and then like say everything that I'm doing. Hey, the UFC fight in 2 weeks on Saturday night. I'm going to want to watch that. Anything that... might be disruptive, and again, keeping our energy, our communication, and our flow. Then, like, okay, there's certain things where, you know, we'll get stuck on and not want to talk about. We started bringing a therapist to the house every other Tuesday at 4 o'clock. So now we have this neutral ground that's basically, you know, I akin it to tuning a Ferrari, where you already have this highly, but another friction is like these issues that you may not want to discuss even in this sort of flow that you're in. Here's this sort of neutral ground that you really don't have unless you bring somebody in, and you just begin to see all of these things layering on top of the goal of having the happiest, amazing relationship that you could possibly have.
So good.
You know what I mean?
I knew about the email, and which, by the way, I started to do myself because you told me about that. By the way, everybody, you listen to my show so that somehow every week you become inspired or learn how to improve your life. If that is not happening for you right now, if there's not been something said here today by this man that is causing you to go, whoa. By the way, you're on the inside of what people that have blissful and happy and successful lives talk about and think about. These are the conversations that they have. So I got one more question for you. By the way, is that the fastest hour in the history of the world? By the way, thank you, number one.